This video is brought to you by BossRootin.com. Fight me, a fearless expression. What are you willing to fight for? And PowerPerformanceProducts.com, where you can receive $10 off your purchase of Body Storm and Body Effects. Welcome back to MMA Today. I'm your host, Spencer Lazar, joined by Dan Henderson. Dan, I just wanted to quickly get a timeline of your career, starting from when you finished your wrestling in the Olympic level and then got into MMA and how that began.
I pretty much started fighting when I was still wrestling. It was in '97. I got an opportunity to go fight down in Brazil, make a little money, and just to support my wrestling. I thought I'd be okay at it, but thought I'd try it just to make some money, and did well on it. A year later, had an opportunity to fight in the UFC for the same reasons, basically. I just wanted to make some money to keep wrestling, and did that for a couple of years, and then I ended up not making the Olympic team in 2000 and decided to fight full time after that. So that's pretty much when I really started to enjoy fighting a lot more and to get serious at it and to set some goals.
Did you have much stand-up training then when you first had those the first fight in Brazil?
No, I hadn't sparred ever before, and I had about 2 weeks' notice. I was just a wrestler going into it, and the sport's progressed and evolved so much that nobody can come into it as just one single discipline and expect to do well now. So you really have to be well diverse in different fields, kickboxing and wrestling and jiu-jitsu and everything. You just can't come into it as just one-dimensional.
Was there a time when you really said, wow, I can do this, I can be the best at this, during the beginning of your MMA career?
I'm sure there was a time, because I feel that now, and I didn't have any goals set when I first started. There weren't any belts when I was fighting in Pride, the first few fights there, so I don't know. I guess when they started having the belts in Japan and started getting title fights and fighting the top guys, I felt that I could probably beat anybody.
Mm-hmm. When did the H-bomb first drop, I guess, and how was the term coined?
H-bomb, that was Mauro Ranallo, in Strikeforce started saying that, and I guess the fans liked it. They liked it probably before I did. It's grown on me, put it that way, but I don't know, it's just, I've been trying to punch people forever and trying to knock guys out for a long time, and you do here and there, so it's not like it's a new thing, but I guess the term fits fairly well.
Do you remember the first guy that you landed, maybe that big shot and first knockout, when you said, wow, felt a guy crumble?
I don't know, I guess Renzo Gracie comes to mind. It wasn't from an overhand position and more of a defensive, defending a leg attack, but it was definitely the right hand that did it.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the memories that stick out most from the Pride days over in Japan?
Just the show they put on. They put on a great show, not just fights, but it was a full entertainment experience, and the fans really loved it.
Do you miss that at all?
Yeah, I think I'm not the only one that misses the show that Pride put on.
Yeah. Would you want to fight in Japan before you would retire?
Yeah, I think it would be nice if I fought at least one more time over in Japan for old time's sake. I fought over there for eight years or so. I wouldn't mind going back for one more fight.
Following your win over Fedor, I came down here, we did a nice interview, and you told me that Vanderlei was probably your most satisfying victory of your career. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Just the things that he's done in the sport, and at the time, when he was still at the top of his game, and he was a champ still, and to take his belt from him, it was a big sense of accomplishment for me. So it was nice.
Is it even more satisfying doing it with a left hand, showing it was not all about the right hand?
Yeah, that one was the left hand, but I guess. I didn't care which hand did it as long as it got done.
Yep. And was there a fight in your career that you can remember being particularly nervous for at all, or do you get nervous?
I don't know. I don't know if I was nervous, but my first fight's over in Brazil. I was, didn't know what to expect. I was a little bit nervous. Hadn't really had anyone ever punch at me before, so but it wasn't so bad.
Obviously, it went well. Who hits the hardest that you fought?
I don't know who hits the hardest. It's hard to say. It all depends on where you get hit. Mm-hmm. I know Vanderlei hits pretty hard. Quentin Jackson, is right up in there as well. I think more recently, Fedor seems to be the one that I've fought that hits the hardest.
And Fejao.
Fejao hits hard as well. So he knocked me a little bit silly.
Who was the one that maybe you felt the most hurt by in those fights?
I don't know. Maybe the first time I fought Vanderlei. He rocked me a couple times. Mm-hmm. So, that could have been it.
It's well documented that you don't run, right, at all. Is that correct?
Yeah, no.
So you're a big fan of the stair climber. And do you feel like that's preserved your knees and helped you have this long, successful career?
Well, I don't run not because of my knees. It's my low back. My back gets too tight when I run, and just too painful. I walk like an old man for a few days. More of an old man, I should say. So I ride the Versa Climber, and it seems to work really well. I used to ride that when I was training to make Olympic teams, and been in the best shape of my life with it. So it definitely is one of the toughest cardio machines out there.
Do you think that's a big part? Because a lot of these guys are gassing after 2-3 rounds, these young guys, and you're out there going 5 rounds with Shogun and really not looking that tired at the end of it.
I think I was looking pretty tired at the end of it. And it's hard to say what my conditioning was. I felt like I was in better shape than any of my previous fights. It's tough to say out there because the pace of that fight was a pretty good pace, and it was a lot of action. And I got tired in that 4th round, and if the first 3 rounds weren't quite as much action-packed, I probably would have cruised right through 5 rounds. It's hard to say, Obviously, I'm going to try and step my conditioning up a little better this next fight as well, just to make sure. But I wear a heart rate monitor and document all my cardio, so. I have some pretty good gauges on what I'm doing and what my performance is and where I'm at cardio-wise. So I'm obviously going to try and one-up it for this next fight.
Yeah. You've always been a guy who seeks the biggest challenge. Whenever I talk to you, you're always like, whatever the biggest challenge is, that's what you want. So let's say you successfully unify these titles and beat Jon Jones. What challenge would you welcome most moving forward?
I don't know. I really have nothing that I'm looking more forward to after this than this fight. So we'll see. I definitely would like to defend the belt once I get it.
So you would want to stay at 205, not something maybe against Anderson or a heavyweight?
No, it all depends on what the fans want to see. But, for now, I've got no desire to really go any other weight class, but I'm open to it. I'm game for it. If it's a big challenge and the fans want to see it.
I read something that said that you didn't feel like felt any need to rematch Anderson, really.
I don't know. If I never rematch him again, I'm not going to lose sleep over it at all. But to cut down to 185, he would probably be the biggest reason for me to do that. So he would probably be the only reason why I would go down to 185, because other than that, I don't need to.
Would you prefer to go down, to, let's say, and have a belt on the line, or would something like 195, meet him in the middle, make more sense for a super fight without belts on the line?
I would go down and fight him for the belt. There's no point in fighting him. There is a point, but I'd fight him at his weight class.
Yeah, I know you're not one to want to look back on your career too much yet because it's still going, but. Talk about what you've accomplished and how you feel about that. Do you ever reminisce and look back on that stuff?
Rarely. So, I'm just mostly looking forward to what I'm going to accomplish next and what my next goal is. And obviously I learned from the past and use each experience to get better. But, I don't really look back and reminisce about my whole career ever.
Do you ever think about where you fit in all time? Should you unify these titles against Jon Jones? I mean, someone like me as an outsider thinks you would be the best light heavyweight of all time if you were to beat Jon Jones.
No, I mean, it doesn't really. I haven't thought too much about it. I know that that's one goal is to get that UFC title, but at the same time to beat someone like Jon Jones that people think is unbeatable. Mm-hmm. That's definitely going to be up there as far as accomplishments go. And
talk about your friendship, lastly, with Brad Penny. How did that come about, and why do you guys get along so well?
Brad Penny is a baseball player that is a big MMA fan. I met him at a UFC, I don't know how long ago, 5-6 years ago, and just started remaining friends, gone hunting with him a few times and taking trips here and there, and he's just a good old country boy that, plays baseball. So, he's a good dude and went on from there.
Well, I appreciate you again taking the time here. I know you have a busy schedule, your beautiful daughter here waiting on you, so appreciate the time. Dan Henderson, I'm Spencer Lazara. Thanks for watching MMA Today. Look for our next episode coming out in a couple weeks.
Hey, we're the Tattoo Palace Ring Girls. Check out ProBoxingSupplies.com for all of your